get the macaroni cheese started, what we need to do is get the water boiling. So we've got that on the stove. We're going to add in a little bit of salt and we'll add the macaroni once it's boiling. So we've got our water boiling. So I'm going to add pasta. I'm actually going to mix the pasta today. But the key thing about mixing pasta is make sure that they are the same cooking time. So you need to check your packets and make sure, because if you put a very small one in and a much larger pasta in there, then you're going to end up with one of them being sort of mushy, and it really isn't pleasant. So I am going to put macaroni in. Okay. Put that one in. There we go. And we're going to let that come back to the boil, and then I'll set the timer because it's very easy to overcook pasta. So it's now boiling away. I am just making sure it's not stuck on the bottom, and I'm going to leave that, turn the heat down so it's simmering, and set the timer for 10 minutes. So we need to grate our cheese for our macaroni cheese, and I just hold the top of the grater nice and firmly. I'll run my hand down like that, you can't see, and then when I'm grating I keep my fingers away from, because if I hold them like that I may well scrape them down the side. So I actually tuck them away and keep my hand, as we get closer I'll just move my hand flatter, and I've just cut it so it's a nice size for me to use. So get your cheese grated, and then you are ready to use it, because we're going to make a white sauce, and then we're going to add our cheese for our macaroni cheese. So there we go, grated cheese. Right, so we're just draining this pasta, and I'm just using the scoop here to get anything on the bottom off. I love this draining spoon, it is so useful. There we go, and that's our pasta drained and ready for our sauce. So we're going to make the white sauce now. We have our butter, and I know I need 4 ounces, so I'm not actually going to measure it. I am going to cut the butter in half. So here we go, we have our butter, and just normal block, and I can cut it in half. In America that's also the equivalent of 1 stick, 4 ounces, and we're going to get some heat on there and get that butter melted. Right, so here is butter just to help it melt more quickly. I am chopping it into smaller pieces. My cheese here. There we go. And the more you stir it, the faster it's actually going to melt. There we go. The butter's all melted, and I'm going to use plain flour. And the amount of flour would be the same visually as the amount of butter. So you don't actually always need to measure it. So I'm just going to throw in some flour now and mix it, because I know what I'm trying to get, which is a roux. That's R-O-U-X, and I know how thick I want that to be. So I can already see as I'm doing this, you can see it's all coming away from the sides. I want my roux to be slightly thicker than this. But the thicker it is, then the more milk you'll need and the thicker your sauce. So I'm just going to add a little bit more flour to that, but not a lot. So just a bit more. Put that away and just get it so it feels firmer. There. You should be able to see that it's now, I can literally cut it. I can put shapes in it if I wanted to. So it's now a nice consistency for me. Now what we do is start adding milk. And we're going to add the milk slowly but surely. Now I am using milk. You could use a mixture of milk and stock. So or just stock, depending on what you're going to use your sauce for. I am doing macaroni cheese today, so I will be turning this white sauce into a cheese sauce. So I didn't add too much milk, and I'm just now going to blend it in to my roux and start building the sauce up. Now, if you want to add sauce seasoning now, you can. So there we go. If you tried to add all the milk in one go, you'd actually get a lumpy sauce. So this way it's actually easier, especially if you're doing it by hand, to do it this way. Now with the amount of butter I put in there, which was 4 ounces, the flour would have roughly been 4 ounces. What we're going to end up with using is going to be just over a pint of milk. And really that will come down to how thick you want the sauce to be as well. And I am going to move to a whisk because I've now got the roux soft enough. I'm just going to add a little bit more milk, and I'm just going to use the whisk to break up the paste that's in here now. You see, not only is it smooth, but we're getting it runnier again. So I'm going to add a bit more. I can see it bubbling there, which ultimately we want. You always want your sauce to come to the boil and then take it off. But now it's just going to be easier and easier to add the milk. And faster. As you can see, we're smooth and we have the milk. And I am now at a point of having the sauce ready to, one, bring it back to the boil, because once it has boiled I will know its thickness, and 2, I can add seasoning and taste it. So I can add a little bit of salt and some pepper. Now I'm going to mix this in, and then I can actually taste it and see how much more I want. You can just see that the bubbles are starting to come up, and that tells me that the sauce won't get any thicker now. Once it's reached that boiling point, which it's coming up to now, my sauce is as thick as it's going to be. So at this point, if I wanted it thinner, I could add more milk. I'm happy with that, so I'm not going to worry. I'm going to add some cheese, and I'm literally just going to take a handful of this cheese I grated and put it in there. Mustard's another great thing to add when you're making a cheese sauce. It really does help pop the cheese flavour. So not lots of it, but some. Now if the mustard is ready made, you can add it in at this stage. You see that lovely colour changing from this cheddar. I'm actually using a strong Irish cheddar that I particularly like. But if you, back to the mustard, are using powdered mustard, then actually add it when, say you add a teaspoon of it, you wouldn't need more than that, when you add the flour, and so that it actually is already in the roux. If you try to add powder to this now, it would stay lumpy in there. So if you've got powder and you've forgotten to add it at this stage, you need to add the water to your mustard powder, turn it into a paste, and then you can add it. So I've added some cheese, so I'm going to take another one of my spoons, and I've added a bit more pepper, and I'm just going to taste it. And that's got actually a really nice flavour. So we are now ready to mix our pasta and our sauce together, so that we can have macaroni cheese. So here we go, I have my pasta bowl, and what I'm actually going to do is tip my pasta in. I actually need to wake it up a bit because I just left it there in the sink. I should have most probably run it under some cold water, but we're about to literally eat it, so it's okay. And now our lovely sauce. Let's pour that over the top. There we go. And all I do now is grate it. And now we have macaroni cheese. Now I could add more cheese on the top and put it under the grill, but I'm not going to do that. And I am about to serve it on a bed of fresh raw baby spinach. So there you go, that is our macaroni cheese made. Enjoy!